president, even on the detriment of the country. So that aspect has really affected the public service in the country. And almost all the senior cadre in the public service. But the draft seeks to adequately address that, which I am very much happy. And I think for a start, we'll be able to be on a very firm footing. The other important aspect is the complete autonomy of the local government in this country, which is very, very, very important. And we have to look at it in that dimension. The local governance is something that has been seriously struggled in this country because of the control. But the autonomy of that is another principle that we need to cherish as a country. And the Constitution also addressed that. If you look at the local government previously, the elected chairmen are always answerable to the various governors in the region. And if you look at those governors, they are also representative of the president, political appointment. The chairmen or the mayors are appointed, they are elected by the people. So you always have this fracas between the two, which really affect the performance of the local governance. And they were the approving authority. But right now in the draft, you will be happy that it's adequately taken care of. And the parliamentary financial autonomy, which is very, very key. If you look at that one, Parliament is one of the most important organs, not only in the area of legislation, but the oversight aspect, which is very, very key. So if the autonomy is there for them to operate and conduct their business on time, I think that one will definitely give a lot of improvement in our different activities. Honorable Speaker, I definitely want to give my blessing. I didn't want to go further, though there will be no constitution that can serve our interests 100%. We have some issues. When we go to the Committee of Supply, we'll be looking at that. But one thing I want to urge the National Assembly, this is our own initiation. We approve this to come into play. And I definitely want to thank the CRRC for making a nationwide consultation across all sectors of life, in and outside, even Gambian outside are consulted. And this is the views and the aspiration of the people, even if it is not adequately captured, but it has captured almost all. If all the sector, the National Assembly, the Executive, everybody is consulted. And this is what is compiled and contained in this book. So right now it is before us. Parliament has a huge responsibility. We either pass this or we reject it. And this is where my concern is coming. And I will urge all the National Assembly members to pay a specific attention and make sure that we pass this thing. After fine-tuning the way we want it, we must pass these things because it's important. Remember, it's perchance we are here, but it doesn't mean that we are better than the larger public. So this responsibility is bestowed on us, and history is going to judge us. We approve this commission to work on nationwide engagement to come out with the draft where taxpayers' money has been committed, up to 116 million. That's a huge amount. If we should reject this thing, what are we telling the population? So this is the area in which we have to look at it critically and make sure that if we have any observation, we'll go to the Committee of Supply. Let's look at it clause by clause and see how can we fine-tune it to better represent the interests of the people. And again, if you look at the 1997 Constitution, from 97 to today, it's almost 23 years. Most of the clauses they are obsolete. They don't commensurate with the current realities. And for a start, that is why I'm specifically thanking the President and the Executive for coming up with this initiation. Because we cannot do anything in this country without going into our books, repeal what are obsolete and obnoxious, to make sure we bring in what will represent the realities. And that is before us. From this, we can go to the various acts too that govern our sector operations, which are very key. But that cannot be done without the new constitution coming into the force. So I am appealing, I am 100% in support of this thing, even whereas we are going to make our own fine-tuning at the Committee of Supply. But I want to appeal to each and every individual to make sure that we pass this constitution and get into the Third Republic of this country. On that note, Honorable Speaker, once again, I want to resume my seat and thank everybody for listening.
Thank you, Honorable Member. May I now call on Honorable Member for Serakunda. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. We are engaged in nation building. We are here to prepare the architectural sketch on which the foundation of the nation must be erected. Honorable Speaker, Section 101 of the Constitution, subsection 2, states that no bill except a particular kind of bill shall be introduced into the National Assembly unless it is accompanied by an explanatory memorandum setting out in detail the policy and principles of the bill, the defects which it is intended to remedy, and the necessity for its introduction. Honorable Speaker, our Standing Order 64 states that every bill shall be accompanied by a memorandum signed by the person in charge of the bill, containing a statement of the objects and reasons of the bill, including the nature of the issue the bill is intended to address, the main options considered, the consultative processes undertaken, and the rationale for the approach taken in the bill. A statement of delegation of legislative powers and limitation of fundamental rights and freedoms, if any, an indication whether it concerns regional government, and a statement of its financial implications, and if the expenditure of public monies will be involved, should the bill be enacted, an estimate, where possible, of such expenditure. No bill shall be introduced unless accompanied by the memorandum referred to in paragraph 1. Honorable Speaker, a bill is before us. The Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia 2020 Promulgation Bill. It has an explanatory memorandum stating the objects and reasons that this bill seeks to promote for the promulgation of the Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia 2020 and to repeal the Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia 1997. Yes, the mover of the bill, the motion, the person in charge of the bill could have extended the objects and reasons. But do we need that? This bill is a byproduct of our own actions. We passed the bill that gave rise to the Constitutional Review Commission Act 2017. We are very clear what we wanted the commission we made to come into being. by the act that is our handiwork. Honorable Speaker, Section 6 states very clearly, the functions of the Commission are to draft a new constitution and to prepare a report in relation to the Constitution. Here is the report. And you look at their report, they've explained all the elements that are required by Standing Order 64. And what is amazing, Honorable Speaker, is that the report gives us references of the consultative process, the literature review that they had undertaken in order to come up with the draft. And part of the references, as I can see, 32 Malawi Citizenship Act, 33 Malawi Constitution, 34 Kenya Constitution. Plagiarism is to quote without making reference and ensuring that you give authority to where authority is due. This parliament is not an ordinary institution. Outsiders cannot come and stand here and speak. Before we make allegations, we must make sure that they are situated in truth. Otherwise, we are undermining the integrity of this National Assembly. Honorable Speaker, we have said we charge the Commission with these responsibilities in carrying out its functions under subsection 1 of the Constitution, seek public opinion and take into account such proposals as it considers appropriate. Considers appropriate, that has content, form, and context. You cannot consider any matter without checking the context. What are you able to do? And you have to make reference to time. How much time do you have to do it? All this matters. So if we are to gauge, we must gauge based on those standards. Honorable Speaker, it says that they must review the 1997 Constitution. So if you find provisions of the 1997 Constitution embedded in the draft, that is what is supposed to happen. If they are convinced that those provisions are authentic and should be there, that's the duty you've given them. That they must adhere to the national values and ethics. They must safeguard and promote the following matters: the existence of the Gambia as a sovereign independent state, the supremacy of the sovereignty of the Republic. What is there in the first chapter? It's talking about what? The sovereignty of the Republic and the sovereignty of the people. That's what we have asked them to do. That's the principle. Honorable Speaker, it says that they must ensure that the existence of the Gambia as a sovereign independent state must be asserted. The Gambia's republican system of governance, including its democratic values and respect for and promotion of the rule of law and fundamental rights and freedoms. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the whole draft, you will see the provisions. Clause 11, national values and principles. Clause 85, guiding principles of executive authority. 134, principles of parliamentary governance. 238, principle of decentralization. And then 203, principles of decentralization. 238, principles of public finance. 171, principles of justice. 283, principle of national security. So everything that is there embedded in this constitution, in the draft, lie on a foundation of principles. Principles can be mere ideas, but it can also be concrete law. And that's what they have sought to do, to provide the principles and then make the law, so that you know why the law is there, for us to be able to gauge whether they have actually served us in the right way. Honorable Speaker, it mentions the separation of powers, national unity, cohesion and peace, the importance of ensuring periodic democratic elections based on universal adult suffrage, including the introduction of term limits for serving in the office of president. We instructed them. This is an instruction. The Gambia continued existence as a secular state in which all faiths are treated equally and encouraged to foster national cohesion and unity. We are all sovereign. We own the Gambia. We are all voters. We belong to different religions. He said that all faiths must be respected. Imagine the debate that this generated. People talking about everything in the sky except what the Constitution is. And what the Constitution is a mundane instrument. You look at the 1965 Constitution. What is there? That executive power lies in Her Majesty. Is that from above? In which religious book would you find that? That's a mundane instrument. We move away from that up to the 1970 Constitution, giving you the authority to determine your manner of existence. To the 1997, and now we're thinking of moving forward. It moves qualitatively from one stage to another. That's what development is all about. So we are here today about development, Honorable Speaker. That's the object. The object is to move forward. And we must ask ourselves the question, do we have the instrument that can help us to move to the next stage? We'll continue to move to higher and higher stages. We will never get there because development will always be higher and higher stages. So the context must determine content and must determine form. The context in which we are in, Honorable Speaker, is that we inherited a 1997 Constitution. We've been using the Constitution. You can see how much it has served us to be able to vet appointments up to the Office of Ombudsman. We rejected. You can see then the powers we have under the Constitution. And because of our ignorance, we could not even utilize the Constitution. Because some people continue to say a soldier's Constitution. But then we can see the powers we have to the point of determining our own income, where the executive rejected it. But we relied on the Constitution. By force, they must do it. And the Accountant General had to do it because of what was read in the Constitution. We could not master our own domain and to be the architects of our own destiny by virtue of ignorance. And that ignorance must not continue to be replicated by not understanding what is before us, Honorable Speaker. The objects are clear. The reasons are clear. That we assign them to do all these things, Honorable Speaker, and if you go, the thread of this Constitution is all the 20 chapters is precisely based on what we assign them to do. So are we now going to transform ourselves into drafters? Then why did we assign them the responsibility? Why didn't we do it ourselves? Because that was said in the first place, Honorable Speaker, that they are asking us to promulgate on the basis of Section 226 of the Constitution. But, Honorable Speaker, Section 226 has two elements. And those two elements cannot be the same. One element are the provisions in the 1997 Constitution that can be amended through and by this Parliament without having to send anything to anybody for a referendum. And that is very clearly stipulated under Section 226, 1 up to 3. So it is important, Honorable Speaker, that we look into that. Honorable Speaker, it says, and it has been read, but I will refer to it to emphasize, for the sake of emphasis, that subject to subsection 4, a bill for an act of the National Assembly, unless this section, under this section, shall not be passed by the National Assembly or presented to the President for assent, unless before the first reading of the bill in the National Assembly, the bill is published in at least 2 issues of the Gazette, the latest publication being not later than 3 months after the first, and the bill is introduced into the National Assembly not earlier than 10 days after the latest publication. So it gives a limit of 3 months, 10 days to ensure that it is introduced before us. When it is introduced before us, it says the bill is supported on the second and third reading by the votes of not less than 3/4 of all the members of the National Assembly. What happens after that? It says under subsection 3, if the President fails to assent within 30 days to a bill passed by the National Assembly in accordance with subsection 2, the bill shall be referred to the Speaker, who shall refer it to the Independent Electoral Commission. The Independent Electoral Commission shall cause a referendum to be held on the bill in accordance with subsection 4, and if the bill is supported on such a referendum by the majority of voters provided for in that subsection, it shall again be presented to the President for his or her action. A bill to any act, well, that is the first element. Honorable Speaker, it means this National Assembly does not have monopoly like we have with other laws, where we pass and the President must assent or return it to us, and when we return, by force he must assent. But when it comes to the Constitution, when he rejects, we must go to a referendum. So there's nothing we can do here, change anything that we believe whatever we change is something that must go to the President. And if he rejects it, we must go to a referendum. Now, what is the second element? The second element deals with subsection 4 to 7. It says that a bill for an act of the National Assembly altering any provisions referred to in subsection 7 and subsection 7, those are the entrenched clauses. So when you have the entrenched clauses, shall not be passed. We are not supposed to even pass it. Shall not be passed by the National Assembly or presented to the President for assent. So it's not even passed, it's not presented to the President. So what happens is, it says that the bill, a bill of that nature, unless the bill is published and introduced in the manner required by paragraph A of subsection 2, which we have passed, the bill is supported on the second and third reading by the votes of not less than 3/4 of all the members of the National Assembly. Supported, not passed, supported. Now, once it is supported, the bill has to be referred to the Speaker, has been referred by the Speaker to the Independent Electoral Commission, and the Commission has within 6 months, bear that in mind, has within 6 months, so you see how we are getting tight, has within 6 months of the reference held a referendum on the bill. So within 6 months, the IEC must hold a referendum on the bill to deal with entrenched clauses. Honorable Speaker, it is important to see that the IEC is scheduling a referendum in June 2021, according to its calendar. So you see how things will have to change. And it is this National Assembly that must be the game changer. This is our responsibility. That's why we are an oversight institution. All these people are coming to us with hope that a way must be found to be able to address the context that we find ourselves. So, Honorable Speaker, it is emphasizing then that how will it pass? At least 50% of the persons entitled to vote in the referendum have taken part in the referendum, and the bill is supported in the referendum by at least 75% of those who voted. Now, the critical situation we have here is that the draft constitution has both provisions which touch on the entrance clauses and provisions which we can change in this National Assembly. That's why when we started the debate, it was felt that we're going and changing what we could and going for a referendum to the others maybe would have been the best judgment. But that is history. Now we have taken this route. How do we come at a level where we see light at the end of the tunnel? That is really what we must discuss. That's the essence of what we are doing here. We are looking at the merits of the law to assist us to achieve the objects and reasons that are put before us: promulgation of the draft constitution and repeal of the 1997 constitution. How are we going to achieve that? So, Honorable Speaker, looking at the situation, you will see that it becomes very significant to look at clause 9 of section 226. It says in this section, reference to this constitution includes reference to any law that amends or replaces any of the provisions of this constitution. Reference to the alteration of the constitution includes references to the amendments, modification, or reenactment with or without amendment or modification of the constitution or of any provision of this for the time being contained in this constitution, the suspension or repeal or the making of different provision in lieu thereof, and the addition of new provisions of this constitution. Now, if you look at the situation, you will see that it is talking about reenactment. It is talking about modification. It is talking about amendment of different sorts, with or without amendment. So elements are sieved out as to what alteration means. Now, how do we promulgate? Is there anything in section 226 that shows how we are going to promulgate a constitution with both entrenched and non-entrenched clauses? Well, that is the issue here. So it is important for us to look at this critically and for the mover to look at this critically, so that we know exactly where we are going. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the 1997 Constitution, you will see in the transitional provisions, Section 232, page 122, is where you find the transitional provision, but it has schedules. And the second schedule, 123, tells us at paragraph 2, election of the first president. Notwithstanding any other provisions of this constitution, the person duly elected president of the Gambia in accordance with the Elections Decree 1996 shall be the president of the Second Republic of the Gambia and shall assume office as president on the date he or she is sworn in. The first president shall hold the office of president in accordance with the provisions of this constitution. This constitution shall come into effect upon the swearing in of the first president. There was no assembly when the president was elected. The president was sworn in, and that was deemed to be wrong. And the Chief Justice acknowledged that when that was criticized, because he saw that the swearing of the president should have brought in the constitution into force, and how can a constitution come into force without a national assembly, without the bodies in the constitution? So they had to wait up to the National Assembly elections before the president was sworn in again, so that the constitution will come into force. Then they rushed the constitution before that to the National Assembly, so that the National Assembly will promulgate it. And this Honorable Williams refused at that time to engage in that exercise until the president was sworn in, so that the constitution will come into force. Now, how will the draft constitution come into force? We will not look at the details, but I am sure they know the details. And if you look at the details, we're saying after a referendum. Now, we are told in 1997 Constitution, a referendum within 6 months. Is the IEC ready for a referendum? It's envisaging 2021 June. So in that regard, could we resort to something else to try to remedy the situation? Look at Section 102. Section 102 of the Constitution, Honorable Speaker, is actually telling us that Section 102E, that any bill introduced in the National Assembly may include a bill, may include in the bill a proposal for a referendum on an issue of national concern defined in the bill. Of course, promulgation of a new constitution is a matter of national concern. The mover should look into this possibility and see whether we could not add 226 with 102 together. Somehow move towards a referendum where it will be introduced in the bill that we move to a referendum. And members, it is clear that if we touch even a scratch in this, and we believe we have power to do so, we must send it to the president. And if he rejects it, we'll go to a referendum. And some of those who are trying to defend, read the mind of the executive. I don't know how we've become psychologists as National Assembly members. What I see before me, Honorable Speaker, is the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice. That's what I see here. Who belongs to a cabinet, who had the responsibility. The president who presides over that cabinet has the responsibility under Section 21 of the Act to receive this document It says the commission shall, upon the completion of its work, submit a constitution and a report thereon to the president. That has been done. What should happen after that? Publication by the commission. The commission shall, upon the submission of the draft constitution and report to the president, publish the constitution and the report. That has been done. And not only that, the constitution and the report may, in addition to being published in the Gazette, be published in such other manner as the commission considers fit. That has been done. And it is the Honorable Attorney General who laid this motion and this bill before us. So the issue is not about the executive, it's us. The executive did not touch it. Yes, the principles are there. For example, Honorable Speaker, the principle of the secularity of the Gambia is not written there directly. But if you look at 88, that was the problem we had in the past, where a president would just get up and say, I've declared Gambia as this state. 88 is restricting that. Yes, maybe it should be entrenched. I've not seen that it is entrenched, but it should be entrenched. But you look at 153, we cannot pass any law that declares a state as a particular state of this form. So that is clear. Now, the contradiction in terms of object and reason, Honorable Speaker, some are saying that is not adequate. Put secular there, and don't put Sharia there, because that will show that you are aligning with a particular religion. Let us look at these principles very clearly. What is best is to have put secular. But within the context of the commission, they say, well, this is what we can put. That's the job we assign them. That's what they can do. That's the context and the content. That's what they can do. But to those who may say, I will vote against this constitution because secular is not there, well, they must rethink. Those who would say, I will not vote because Sharia is there, they must rethink. Because the fundamental rights and freedom gives power not to be discriminated. It's an equality principle. Whilst a religion may have its peculiarities to those who believe in it. So if the religion says this is how you should share, based on the religion, because the obligations are different. And it is not put in the constitution that the laws of that religion is respected for those people who believe in that religion. It means that you can rely on the state, the constitution, on the discrimination clause to claim for a right that goes against the very principle of that religion. Then why don't you just abandon the religion and go and marry have a state marriage? Or convert to another religion? Why should you worry to belong to a religion that you don't have faith in? Nobody stops you from doing that. And those are the safeguards that we must put into consideration to be able to move forward, to respect the group rights, to explain things very clearly so that we understand that we want a united Gambia and we want to move forward. Yes, there are inadequacies. A citizen is a citizen, for example. Why should you say that somebody who have acquired the citizenship of another country cannot stand here and be a president in the Gambia? Why? Because the whole purpose of expanding your territory is for your people to go and become somebody else as long as they are loyal to the state. You could say, for example, that yes, you can stand for elections, but then once you are elected, you must renounce the citizenship of another country. So it's how you frame it. You can say that once elected president, you cannot continue to maintain the citizenship of another country. But you cannot say somebody, I'm just saying, these are general things that we can continue to fight for, eventually for amendments. But should we say no to this because of those things that we know ultimately will have to fight for in order to achieve? Well, that is the question before us. That's why we're talking about context, determining content. Even those people who are part of the commission may have certain beliefs, ideologies, thinking, strong ones. And when they look at the provision, they may really want to rebel against themselves. But what can they do? Because maybe doing certain things will make others reject. And therefore, will you succeed? So therefore, context will therefore determine content, and that's what this assembly should bear in mind. That each of us, as the member for Woolly has said, in terms of citizenship, but some will go against that. So if it's put there, what would they do? So essentially, they throw it back to us, and we're coming. Know that some people will come with a private member's bill if the state does not come. And the state must get that responsibility. Reject it, fine. And they will know who had rejected this. And then when you want to leave the country and for your brother, sister to be a citizen of another country, we'll tell them to reject it. Then we see what type of world we will have. We are ready for that battle, Honorable Speaker, on the basis of principles. But principles must be guided by context. What is achievable at this time is what we should seek to achieve. And Honorable Speaker, I will conclude on that note that if you look at the members of the Commission, I see Honorable Justice Chairman Suleiman Jawlo, they're saying QC. I think that's of high judicial status in their own domain. I'm not trying to be ideological. The Pan-Africanist, etc. Well, that's another domain. Come and reach us in our own domain. But here in this domain, it shows capacity to think and situate your knowledge. And that knowledge is being situated to build a constitution of our republic. That's what they are capable of doing at this moment. You look at Honorable Hawa Kurusisi Sabali, who was the Attorney General and Minister of Justice in 1997. Institutional memory of the 1997 Constitution. You have Abidjuf Cole, a journalist of profound, and a woman of profound integrity. Dr. Melvin George, you can see just the doctor is enough. Dentist of profound integrity. Fatoumata Jallo, former Auditor General. You see Gay Sow, consultant, legal consultant everywhere. I've met him in so many domains in West Africa, where he is held in high repute. When we look at all this ECOWAS, etc., is a regular consultant. You're talking about national asset. Janet Ramatulai Salajai, who does not know her? These are people who have performed all functions, judicial function in this country. Who does not know Lamin Kamara? If you have these cases, just go and have a criminal case. You say, who do you think first? So essentially, we are talking about Salimata E.T. Ture, Yankuba Diba, Yankuba Manjang. You're talking about people who, for one reason or another, had something to contribute. And therefore, we should not look at our national assets and try by all means to trivialize their efforts and their actions. You can only interrogate what they have done by going and write and show us where their flaws are and how they have plagiarized anybody. But essentially, constitutions, honorable, in terms of principles, in West Africa and Africa, they are talking about constitutional convergence. So the more we converge our constitutions, the more we move towards African integration. So the Gambian constitution ultimately could be a constitution that others will take. That's what we want. But we have added value to it so that others will come and take it and utilize it. This is not a nationalist agenda. It's agenda of building. We are building a better constitution than some of these countries. Do you have time limit in the United States? That is like the time limit that we are talking about. And what I mean by that, do you have second round of voting? Maybe that was not the right question to ask. I'm talking about the 50% majority. Do you have that in the United States? You don't. It's first past the post. But we are building up an architecture of real democracy. We are talking about 50% majority before you become a president, even if you lead. So these structures will ultimately be emulated in other parts of the world. So in conclusion, Honorable Speaker, I would request ultimately that the mover reviews what has been said, and if we see in certain areas, then what may end up being the best mechanism, because if you look at it, Honorable Speaker, again, that the Commission's term, yes, under clause 8, the term under clause 9, the term of the Commission was supposed to be 18 months, and then it can add another 6 months, and that's why they carried out their work and provided us with what they could provide. Now, we have seen under clause 22, the Commission shall stand dissolved within 1 calendar month after the date of enactment by the National Assembly of the bill introducing the Constitution. Of course, we know that that is not entirely the procedure that ultimately will have to happen. So in that sense, the Commission exists now for the National Assembly. Could be creative and get the Commission to be able to sit with our committee, not to look at the details of, but to see what people say. These are the things, and they give reasons why something could be added or cannot be added in terms of the context, so that we resolve this issue in keeping with what is in line with the duty we have given them. We cannot transform ourselves into a drafting committee. It is important that they continue their work, because if we touch it and it goes to the people and fail, who will hold them accountable? Maybe what you put there is why people rejected it. What they put is what they know the people will accept. Let's put it before the people, and then if we need improvement, amendments will come, and maybe some of you may become president someday, and you can introduce a fourth constitution of the Fourth Republic. So it's left to us to improve our constitutions as we go. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Serakunda. May I now call on Honorable Member for Banjul Central.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. Honorable Speaker, I would like to thank the CRC for their efforts that they have done to reach here today. Many Gambians have been yearning for a new constitution, and we have a draft here for us to debate on it. I can see that there are many provisions that many Gambians are happy with. For example, the term limit, 2 terms. It is good for term limit to be in our constitution, because we Africans have the attitude of overstaying. Presidents like to stay for more than 15 years, 20 years, which doesn't favor our country or our continent at large. So coming up with a provision in the draft one, I'll be very glad to support provisions like that one. And the autonomy of local governments and their financial independence. The draft constitution has spelled it out. It is indicated in the draft constitution, which will help local governments to improve, to do many things on their own, both financially and to making decisions too on their own. Honorable Speaker, it is also gender balance. It is advocating for gender and for the youths as well. So, and there are so many others, which I cannot mention at the moment because I cannot take the time of the whole assembly. But there are some provisions that I have objects that I am not in support of those sections, which one of them is constitution, that the constitution cannot be challenged in courts. We are in a democratic world now. This is not democracy. We should recall that we should recall about the case of Kemeseng Jammeh and about the case of Honorable nominated member Yakumba. They had cases and they challenged it to the courts and they won. And this is why Honorable Yakumba is still here. So if you happen to put this into our constitution, okay, no problem.
Point of clarification. Honorable
Member for Serakunda, point of? Honorable Member for Serakunda.
Point of clarification, he's allowing me.
Do you allow him to?
So I allow him.
You can go ahead.
Honorable Speaker, I just didn't want to extend the debate. The supremacy of the Constitution is also under the 1997 Constitution. You look at it, it's the same. It's almost like a carbon copy. Honorable Speaker, what it is saying is clear that the Constitution and laws of the Gambia. So you may look at the draft Constitution, you will see almost the same thing, is that this Constitution is the supreme law of the Gambia, and any other law found to be inconsistent with any provision of this Constitution shall, to the extent of the inconsistency, be void. So it's the supreme law. It is not saying, in fact, what it's telling you is that if laws are made and actions done that are in contravention, you can go to the courts and challenge it. That's what it is saying. So it's not saying you cannot, you can challenge, and it's in fact giving you the basis to do your challenge. And that's why those cases you mentioned happen. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Banjul Central. You may proceed.
And secondly, the appointment of judges and ministers. There are some appointments that are political. It cannot come to the parliament, I believe, because appointment of ministers should be from the executive, should be from the president. If we can say that if the president should appoint ministers, cabinet ministers, there should be requirements that the ministers should have qualifications and experience. I will agree. But those things should be left to the executive. There should be separation of power. The powers of all the three arms of government should be given to them. If, like for example, the powers of the National Assembly is limited, or the judiciary or the executive, they are not able to work properly as they should. And even the appointment of judges. So public appointments should not come here. We have an example here. Just few months ago, some of my colleagues, member for Basse, tried to explain, but he was not mentioning the exact problem that happened here. And the member for Jara West, so Jara Central. But I mentioned it, the appointment of Njai Ndao and Mr. Diba. The debate here was political, we all know. So appointments like that should be left with the executive to do that. Coming to the election of the speaker, I believe the speaker should be from the elected members, not from outside. Ghana is practicing the same thing. The speaker of the National Assembly will be from the elected members. If the member for Banjul happen to win the election, a by-election will happen in his constituency, and another member of parliament will replace him, and then he'll be the speaker. So it's fair enough for the speaker to be among the elected members than to be from outside. And I want to talk about citizenship too. We have to be fair enough. We have to give people their rights and their privileges. We have so many Gambians who are outside. And in all our prayers, in all our gatherings, we pray for them to have papers. And we don't want people to have our citizenship here, who have the right and the privilege to have them. We have Gambians, we have a Gambian who was the mayor in the United States, Muriaya Sise, for two terms. In Scandinavia, we have councillors who are Gambians, and for Muriaya Sise, he was born and brought up and educated in the Gambia. He didn't spend all of his life in the United States. He acquired citizenship there. We have a Gambian who is a parliamentarian in Scandinavia. So we have to be fair enough. We have to reason. And it shouldn't be automatic for somebody whose grandparents are Gambians to have automatic citizenship to be Gambian. We have a population of almost 2 million. If we happen to do that, next 5 years, we will be 10 million. All Senegalese will be Gambians, believe me. So we are talking about so many things, merits, demerits, and the like, but we have to take our time to know, and people are saying that we spend so much money in this constitution, so we have to approve it. It's not like that. Spending millions doesn't mean that we have to approve it. If we have some things that will not favor us, that will harm us tomorrow, we shouldn't. We shouldn't. And we always call for new Gambia, new Gambia. Yes, we accept that we are in a new Gambia, but doesn't mean that we should compulsory have a new constitution. We should compulsory move to a third republic. So, with these objections that I have here, to be quite honest, if they still happen to be in the constitution, I will not support the constitution. That's my take. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Banjul Central. Honorable Member for Latrikunda Sabiji, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to take part in this very important debate that we're doing today. And also let me join my colleagues to thank the CRC and then also the Minister of the Executive for the job well done. I said in the section 226 that the first requirement that before the bill is here today has all been met by the Executive, and we thank them for the wonderful job. And also, Honorable Speaker, as said by my honorable colleagues, this is a very important document, and we are in a time that we believe that yes, we need to have a new law in this country to guide our operations. But as said by the Banjul note, yes, in as much as we want to have a new law, but also we have the right to look at what is embedded in that law. That is key, that's important. Okay, Banjul Center, sorry. Honorable Speaker, I think my take on this draft will be very, very simple and straightforward. Yes, we know the CRC cannot do all. We assign them. If you look at the CRC, the act that we passed here in 2007, we assigned them to go and do a job for us. 2017. To go and do a job for us. But in that, if you look at it, we've asked them, if you look at the section, let's say 6, that's the functions of the commission, subsection 2D, come downward, you're talking about the separations of power. We asked them to go and work on it with the separations of power. Honorable Speaker, nobody, no genuine Gambian will tell you that we're not in support of this draft constitution. No, we are not saying that we're not supporting this. But we are saying that we have an observation on this draft constitution that needs to be addressed. Simple. Honorable Speaker, we talk about the term limit. Nobody will tell you that they are not in support of the 2-term limit of the president. Nobody is saying that. But what we are denying here, what we are saying here, is that what I am saying is that I am not going to support any retroactive law. Mark my words, this is what I say. I am not saying that I am not supporting the 2-term limit of the president. And that's the key, this is important. We need to know this. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the powers given to the National Assembly, I believe we need a separation of power. National Assembly should be independent. So are the judiciary and the executive to do their job. Now, the appointment of Chief Justice, if you look at the section 190, it's talking about nominated by the President in consultation with JSC, that's the Judicial Service Commission. And I think that the Judicial Service Commission is competent enough to identify the people who are going to occupy those positions. So I am totally against saying the appointment of Chief Justice should come to the National Assembly. I didn't buy that idea. I am not supporting that section of the law. Honorable Speaker, if you go further to the appointment of the ministers, Honorable Speaker, in acts much acts, we want accountability. But let's just reflect our mind on the reality on the ground here. What has happened here? In the appointment of some people, we have seen that some people are politicizing it. And this might continue. So I believe the power given to the National Assembly in the appointment, the President should appoint a minister subject to the confirmation of the National Assembly. I am not in support of that one also. The President can appoint the state ministers without coming into the National Assembly. Because we know ministers are political appointment. But if you tell me that the President can nominate, come to the National Assembly, at the end of the day, we are going to look which party did it belong to. Did he belong to? Did he belong to my party? No, I'm not supporting him. Despite the fact that he doesn't have a quality or he is well educated, but sometimes we are not going to look at that. All what we look at is that, did I share the same political ideology with him or her? This is what is happening. So in that section, Honorable Speaker, I am not going to support that part of this draft constitution. And let me make my stand very, very, very clear on that. Honorable Speaker, if you go to citizenship, yes, accepted by others. But if you look at citizenship, I think we should be very, very mindful here. When you say that you can claim a citizenship of the country to your grandparents in the Gambia, but if you are born in the Gambia here, brought up here for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, yet still you cannot be a citizen of the Gambia. Unless if you just naturalize or you get married to someone who is a Gambian citizen. So what are we trying to say? What signal are we trying to send out to the people? Let us ask ourselves. In acts, what acts we want a law? In acts, what acts we want a draft constitution, a constitution that is going to guide our operations? You know, we should be mindful. No, that's true. If you look at this one, there is a lot of rights. You have about post 35 rights. Right to education, right to health, sickness right, old age right, youth right. It's all there. We have no problem with those rights. But the implementation aspect of those rights is what we should be asking. That's the key. The Minister of Justice to tell us what plan did they have for the Gambian people when we pass this. Let's say right of administrative actions, right to trial, freedom of expression, freedom of the media, access to information. What plan did they have for the Gambian citizen before we can just talk about right. It's important. Every human being should have a right in a country. That's the key. Honorable Speaker, so one mentions about the selection of a speaker. That's a Banjul Central, if I get him right. I am also in support of that. The speaker should be selected within the National Assembly members, not outside. And the process of also removing the speaker is not clearly stated in the draft. By the deputy speaker is clearly stated, but the speaker is not clearly stated. Because if you look at this draft, you say the president can appoint a minister subject to the approval of the National Assembly. But that same president can revoke the appointment of that state minister. That's been confirmed by the National Assembly. So let's balance the two and see. And we're looking at the separations of power. National Assembly wanted to be independent. We don't want any interference of the executive in our job. So why would we interfere in the job of the executive? With this political cloud that we are in today, you can appoint a state minister, at the end of the day, because of he said, I'm not in the same party with this you, then there will be a lockerhead. The executive will not be able to do their job. So I think that should be left with the executive to decide. That is my take. Honorable Speaker, if we also looked at the Judicial Service Commission, okay, or the judges, the financial aspect of it, I believe what has been stated there needs to be looked at. Yes, we know judiciary, they are independent, and it is a very important, it's a key area, but also we have to look at the resources available in this country. That is the key. We need to look at that one also. Honorable Speaker, if you look at section 49 of the draft, and then if you look at the interpretation clause of it, that's the freedom, all those freedoms. Because sometimes, some people have these problems. You talk to some people, they will tell you, yes, in this draft, there is a freedom of expression. In this draft, there is a freedom of education. In this draft, there is a media freedom. Freedom, access to information. We have no problem with that. Yes, those ones are there. But let's look at the key issues in the draft. We assigned the CRC to go and do a job for us. Yes, they did a good job. Nobody denied the CRC of doing a good job. We are happy with their job. But it is our right. Trust me, not every government, those who are saying this is the will of the Gambian people, not every government, it's not the will of every Gambian people. I conducted a series of a program talking to the Gambian people about the draft. Some people are not happy with it, and others are. So if you tell me that it's the will of the Gambian people, say it is your will. What you want there, that's what is there. That is important. Honorable Speaker, I think we just, let me just make it very, very short. That we just propose those amendments. That's one. Okay, sorry. One, I am not supporting any retroactive law in this draft. That is my first step. I am not supporting the retroactive law. That the terms of the, I'm supporting the term limit. That's 2 term limit. That's fine. But I cannot support a retroactive law. And also the appointment of the executive, and then also the Chief Justice and the judges of the Superior Courts. That aspect of it, I'm not supporting it also as well. And then let me make myself clear, if there cannot be amendment to those ones, then my vote for this draft is big no. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. May I now call on Honorable Member for Brikama North. Brikama North, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This is yet another historic moment. Any parliamentarian privileged to be part of this will add value to your profile. Something that is happening had never happened 55 years as a nation. To have a constitution built by the people and presented to the representative of the people for promulgation is historic and worth mentioning. Having said so, Mr. Speaker, it could be recalled that in 1960, there was a constitution, even though not independent constitution as such, called the Governor Windy Constitution, that resulted to the first election in 1961. unlike this constitution perhaps, it came without that broad-based consultation to give the wishes and aspirations of the people, and the election resulted to controversy. Thereafter, the governor appointment to the executive, P.S. Njai as chief minister, and Sadado and others as members of the executive, some of them had to resign. In that event, from 4th to 11th May 1961, and from 24th to 27th July 1961, there were constitutional conferences to address those issues, and yet another constitution was developed and second election conducted. Then Sir Dauda, his party forming the majority, was appointed as Premier Minister. The Gambia went for a referendum, but fall short to get the total requirement and could not get the self-governance. Sir Dauda was appointed as Premier Minister. Gambia got independence in 1965, but under the rule of the colonial masters, Sir Dauda appointed as Prime Minister in 1965. The country still yearned for a full-fledged independence. And what brought about the full-fledged independence to the nation was the 24th April 1970 referendum, where the country got the total requirement and got the full-fledged independence. Then Sir Dauda became the first president of the first republic of the Gambia as a result of the Constitution. Then in 1994, there came the military junta. The Constitution was suspended, and the country was ruled by degree for almost 2 years. August 8, 1996, we went to a referendum to vote in for a new constitution. Of course, there were consultations, as earlier on alluded by Honorable Member for Woodley West. But some of us, even though at that time we were not that much politically aware, we were involved. The manner in which that consultation went and the manner in which this consultation went, they are far apart. I will not say there was no consultation, but I could say there is vast difference. The approach and the manner, everything involved. When the Constitutional Review Commission submitted its reports, it was not to the National Assembly that it was presented, but to the military junta. And then the people raised concern regarding whether their wishes and aspirations were captured in the first draft constitution. Observations were made that there were a lot of omissions in the first draft. Instead for the Constitutional Review Commission to go back to the people and redraft what they feel were omitted, it was the military junta that revised that draft constitution. It was that revised constitution, revised by the military junta, that was put to the national referendum. It was said here, the 1997 constitution, even though was voted to the referendum on August 8, 1986, was promulgated when the new National Assembly came in 1997. This constitution, according to a member, suffered a great deal of amendment. To one extent, even entering clause was amended. And then what we saw, a country with a constitution but the constitution that one would say the executive has overpowered the constitution. 2016, the Gambians saw the need, there is a need for change. And in that change, fundamental in the principle to call for change is to review the 1997 Constitution to provide a constitution that can provide good governance in this country. This was very key. Madam Speaker, December 2017, the National Assembly enacted the Constitutional Review Act. June 2018, the President ascended to the Constitutional Review Act. And then the Constitutional Review Committee is to provide for establishment of the Constitution, to draft the Constitution, and then the process to guide the drafting of the Constitution and the promulgating of the new Constitution for the Gambia. The CRC was established and then sworn in by the President on the 4th June 2018. The CRC first conducted what they call the pre-consultation visits to all the regional administrators and authorities. And then the CRC conducted a wide range of consultation within the country and diaspora. And then they prepared finally their draft constitution that was published on the 15th November 2019. The CRC, having listened to the views of the people once more on the draft constitution that was earlier on presented, did not hesitate, went again on the second final publication of the constitution, and then informed and solicited the feedback on the draft constitution. And then finally, the CRC took the feedback on the proposed draft constitution and prepared and submitted the draft constitution to the President. Madam Speaker, the CRC did not stop there. As Assembly members, we have various documents from the CRC, the report of the CRC, comprehensive report of the CRC of their work, as well as the explanatory memorandum to the draft constitution. Therefore, the CRC has done its work, and the CRC is the body that can effectively guide us as members to get into this constitution. We are not drafters. We are not experts like them. The work that they do is exactly that we're supposed to follow. And we could see from the trend that we're going, they have really done what they should do, and everybody is given the opportunity to put your view regarding what should be in the Constitution. Nobody will be forced to do so, but the opportunities were open. They went to every community. They used all media houses. All avenues were used. So now no Gambian will now say your views are not captured in this Constitution. In the report, the CRC mentioned the draft Constitution comprises some provisions of the 1997 Constitution that the CRC considered appropriate to retain while modifying others. It has introduced some innovations in response to the wishes and aspirations of the Gambian people. The new chapter has been created on national values and principles, leadership and integrity, independent institutions and offices, and land, environment, and natural resources. In particular, the establishment of the National Human Rights Commission and the Anti-Corruption Commission are aimed at ensuring respect for the rule of law and human rights, and integrity and accountability in government. These are engaging phenomena of modern constitutional development. In the report, the CRC concludes, after engaging in a robust and full participatory and inclusive process to canvass public opinion, it is my strong belief, and indeed that of my fellow commissioners of the CRC, that the draft constitution generally embodies the wishes and aspirations of the Gambian people in a fair, balanced manner, and that it will help buttress democratic rule and good governance in the Gambia for generations to come. While the draft constitution, as with any other constitution, cannot incorporate every view and opinion, it is our belief that it is truly reflect the best interest of the Gambia and the Gambians. The CRC commends this report and the draft constitution to His Excellency, the President of the Republic, and to all Gambians to receive and adopt and own. This is the position of the CRC. I think every Gambian that has been following the entire process will be satisfied by the work of the CRC and what they have requested. It's either we own this constitution or we go back to the 1997 constitution. But the CRC is advising the earlier. Having said so, I want to seize this opportunity to commend the CRC for the job well done, and I've noted their requests, and I am in support of the request made by the CRC. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution, the draft Constitution, to say, the 2020 draft Constitution, Honorable Member for Woolly West earlier mentioned, the Gambia as a nation is well defined. In the Constitution, the Republic, as I said earlier on, when the first draft came, there were issues surrounding that area regarding the word circular. I think there is a provision that tries to harmonize that. That is clause 1.3, the Gambia comprises of people of different faiths, and every faith shall be respected and treated fairly without any discrimination. In the explanatory note, the CRC tried to explain the misconception that the people may have surrounding the word or exclusion of the word secular. If I may read, restoring Section 1 to this original position in accordance with the decision of the Supreme Court. In 2001, the National Assembly, acting on the recommendation of the then Attorney General and Minister of Justice, passed an amendment to the Constitution, which, among other things, sought to amend Section 1 to declare the Gambia as a secular sovereign republic. That section, being an intent clause in the 1997 Constitution, was never advanced to a referendum for approval by the people. Consequently, Kemese Jammeh initiated legal action before the Supreme Court, which declared the proposed amendment to be unconstitutional. This effectively restores Section 1 to its original image, declaring the Gambia a sovereign republic. Unfortunately, the revised edition of the law of the Gambia of the 2009, instead of clearly restoring the Section 1 to its original position in accordance with the decision of the Supreme Court, as it should have done, left the word secular in the section and provided asterisk referring to the cause brought by Kemese Jammeh. Constitutional position, therefore, is that Section 1 of 1997 Constitution remain as it was originally approved at the referendum adopted in 1997 Constitution. With that being, there is no word secular in the current Constitution. So there is no point to say CRC has omitted the word secular in the Constitution. But now when people's views were advanced, concerns were raised, I think the clause that I earlier on read tend to harmonize the situation. Mr. Speaker, if you go to the centralization of government, the point mentioned here, the government and the local government authorities shall cooperate and work with each other to promote the interests of all people, the interests of all Gambians, pay for development of each administrative area, unity, cohesion, peace between and among all Gambians. This is very fundamental and very key. In a multi-democratic nation, at times we may have a government in power that may not have local authorities, but there's a need for them to cooperate and work together. So having this in the provision, I think, is a new development that can harmonize the coexistence between the central government and then the local government. The national values. This is another important, if not new or clause, that is provided. As citizens, we can truly demonstrate to be true citizens if we know what are our values as citizens. And this will be spelled out. And that's what the Constitution is trying to address, so that every Gambian can know that these are our national values and principles. When they are spelled out, they are to be known and then to be carried by every citizen. These are things that are lacking. Sometimes we tend not to have that sense of national spirit, national love. But if we enshrine in our Constitution, we tend to have it, and we tend to know it and own it. On the culture, Mr. Speaker, our culture, is it Madam Speaker? Oh, Madam Speaker, I'm sorry. Madam Speaker, some of us are culturists, and we love anything that can promote our culture. Now, having this been mentioned explicitly for the promotion and protection of our culture in our Constitution, is a welcoming development. Our culture needs to be preserved. Our cultural sites needs to be protected. This is in one way or the other that can promote tourism in our country. And we all know very well that tourism is one that can boost our economy. The manner in which the culture has been addressed in the Constitution is in no uncertain term aimed to undermine the promotion of our culture. And to that, this is a welcoming clause in the Constitution. The duties of the citizenship. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, rather, if you look at citizenship in this constitution, it has clearly defined what citizenship is. By birth, instead of saying citizenship by birth or by descent. Citizenship by birth. And who is a citizen? If you have been a citizen prior to the commencement of this constitution, you maintain your citizenship. The other aspect, I think what people fail to understand is, apart from being a citizen by birth, you can be a citizen by registration, and you can also be a citizen by naturalization, but you have to follow the procedures. No matter how long you have been here, if you don't follow the procedures, you have no one to blame. Let's sensitize and enlighten people to follow those procedures so that they acquire our citizenship. But we cannot simply say they've been here for long, therefore they should be granted. What the law says, these are the procedures. If you are not a citizen by birth, these are procedures to be a citizen by registration. These are procedures to be a citizen by naturalization. Simply follow that. There is no ambiguity with that. However, Madam Speaker, under citizenship, the child of not more than 8 years of age, found in the Gambia whose parents are not known, shall be presumed to be a citizen of the Gambia by birth. That one perhaps, when we get to the committee stage, or when we are to consult, seriously once more, we need technical explanation to that. Leadership integrity. Leadership integrity. A nation succeeds with a leader. And the nation fails with a leader. And a leader has to have that degree of integrity and demonstrate that integrity. If the Constitution is trying to highlight that to the better understanding of the citizens, it is our belief that we will put in leaders who have acquired that level of leadership and integrity, because it is in our book. This new clause in the Constitution is very important, as Africa in general, we are getting problems with our leaders as a result of our lack of confidence in terms of leadership and their attitude or integrity after assuming or acquiring power. But if the citizens are aware of this, and since it is in their constitution, they will know what to do. It went further to highlight the responsibilities of leadership. And these responsibilities clearly show what a leader is responsible to do. This is cross-cutting, applying to every office, every institution. Wherever you are a leader, what is expected of you to run that particular office or institution. Financial probity of public officers. It is now well known that if you receive any gift or donation in the name of the state, that should be delivered to the state through the Anti-Corruption Commission. This is also another welcoming development, and if done as stated, will be a way to check corruption in the government and in any public offices as well. Obligation of persons dealing with public offices in the service of the state. People should know their obligations, that you are public servant, you are people's servants, and these are your obligations that you need to carry to serve your people. This is another welcoming provision that will give the people the sense of responsibility to run their offices. In the previous constitution, 1997 constitution, we have the fundamental human rights and freedoms. But the manner in which this constitution has designed this particular area is well commendable. You have part 1 as the general provision for the fundamental human rights, and part 2 for the specific rights and freedom. You have how these fundamental rights are going to be applied and then how they are going to be implemented. The enforcement of the fundamental rights and the authority of the court on upholding and enforce this chapter. Limitation of the fundamental human rights and the limitation of the fundamental human rights. With that, if you know the rights also, we should also know the limits as well. This arrangement of this particular chapter has made the fundamental human rights and freedom to be well understood. And then where we have the loopholes in terms of application and enforcement, the issue of denial of our rights could be addressed. The Independent Boundary and Electoral Commission. I share the same view with the Honorable Member for Woolly West. I believe the nomenclature, the Independent Boundary and Electoral Commission, does not actually speak for the purpose, in the sense, independent boundaries. I think the honor lies on the Electoral Commission, not the boundaries. Partly, even in the 1997 Constitution, the Independent Electoral Commission has function to demarcate the constitutions. That's part of its functions. Or consequences, rather. That's part of its functions. I believe what should have been done is to maintain the name and then give them that mandate. Instead of creating the Constituency Boundary Commission, we give that mandate to the Independent Electoral Commission, as simple as that. Already, Independent Electoral Commission is an established institution. If you want a change of name, that required a lot of changes and a lot of resources are going to be used in that. And the change of name does not do anything here. All what is necessary is the functions that the commission is going to carry on. Under executive, the draft constitution ably arranged in a way that we have various parts, the guiding principle of the executive authority and general duties. Office and powers, the office of president, powers and duties. What is also important here for inclusion of what is called the temporary succession to the office of the president. And then there was a time the vice president was not appointed for a couple of months because the Constitution did not address that time as when that particular office can be filled or something like that. But I could see in this draft, within 14 days, the vice president should be appointed. I think that will address that ambiguity. The election of the office of the president, qualifications and disqualifications were highlighted, and there were some adjustments compared to the 1997 Constitution. I will wait until when we come to the stage, but so far it is inclusive. Constitution should not be made in a way to, if we are advocating for franchise, you have the right to vote, but at the same time also the right to be voted for. The law should not be stringent enough to make that exclusion as such. And I could see that in the draft to take care of the situation and harmonize the situation as well. The terms of the president when we say president, it's not a person, it's the office. That's what we should understand. When we say the Constitution, it's not the president or the person that is the nation. Under that, this Constitution is addressing the office. And the CRC did express that the Constitution is meant for the executive not to perpetuate itself to power. And we all would agree that what has been strongly been advocated as a result of change is this issue of term limit, 2 terms. That is the bottom line of the change. The 1997 Constitution started with what we call President Jaura as the first president of the first of that Constitution of the First Republic. 1997 Constitution came, President Jammeh as the first president of the 1997 Constitution, and if this Constitution should pass, we'll have President Barrow as the first president of the, would it be 2021 Constitution? And the CRC is recommending they start the counting from there. These are experts, taking into consideration how dictators are built. No one is born a dictator. It is the people who make dictators. The more we give them the opportunity, and they tend to abuse. That's how it resulted to. Sometimes they will even go, well, it is 2 terms now. They'll wait until when that 2 terms elapses because already they are dictators. We want you to be there, continue, amend it. The 3 terms comes. Those who are saying we should not start now, tomorrow you are not there. Your target is this, but now the dictator is made. Constitution is amended. The term limit is completely removed. That's why the president of Guinea-Bissau said, inasmuch as we condemn coups in Africa, we should equally condemn them. What is called amending the Constitution to 3 terms. It does not just start there. It started from somewhere. And here we are in that situation. We regularize it now. Or else, I can tell you, whether you find me here or not, it is going to happen. Because this is an act of trying to build somebody to acquire that trend of dictatorship. The appointment of ministers. These are best practice elsewhere. The qualifications are there, disqualifications are there. And the executive has the power to do the nominations. The National Assembly scrutinizes. If we are doing for other public offices, we did it here, Ombudsman. What is wrong for cabinet minister? The Ombudsman, we did it here. And we did it perfectly well. I believe this is a welcoming development. We all know very well there are certain cabinet ministers, if at all they should be put before the National Assembly for scrutiny, they will not be in that office. Anytime they come here, we'll express our disappointment. The way they treat issues, and the way even they address this August Assembly. We say fine, the people's representatives should be given the opportunity to scrutinize who should better work with the president to serve the nation. They say we should leave that. I think this is also a new development. Finally, Madam Speaker, local government, we have the chiefs supposed to be elected as it used to be. But what is lacking is their qualification and disqualification. The Constitution mentioned that, or the draft Constitution rather, the institution and election of appointment of Sefo and Alcalo. The institution of the office of the Sefo and Alcalo as recognized and established by the customs and usage, and the non-abolition of such offices is hereby guaranteed and preserved. A Sefo shall be elected by the universal adult suffrage of all registered voters in the district on a non-partisan basis. That's just that about Sefo. If you talk about their election, I think you should also talk about their qualifications and disqualifications. Because in the First Republic, it was the government that will identify, or people will apply and they will select candidates. Sometimes they will say you come from those from the ruling clan or something like that are the ones who are given the ballot boxes to contest. And then sometimes this is done on political line. But now when the appointment came, whether you are from that ruling clan or not, people are appointed. In the same vein also, even election, it was only the yard owners that used to vote. Now voting has been addressed, but who are qualified or disqualified to contest for the chieftaincy, I think that should be addressed in the Constitution. On that note, Madam Speaker, I thank you so much for giving me the floor. And once more, I thank the CRLC, through the chairperson, the able chairperson, for a job well done. And I urge the August Assembly to adhere to the submission of the Commission, that is to receive, adopt, and on this Constitution as the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member for Nyamina East, Sierra. Nyamina East. Okay.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. First, Honorable Speaker, let me recognize or acknowledge the effort of the CRC, the Constitutional Review Commission, for having done a fantastic assignment, I will call it. Obviously, Honorable Speaker, we are not ignorant of the fact that the CRC was empowered by this August Assembly to go around all over the country and, of course, beyond the country to have that consultation with the Gambian people within the country and outside the country. I can't remember, Honorable Speaker, any individual or this August Assembly asking the CRC to draft this constitution just to suit the interests of an individual, to suit the interests of one political party or one sector of the society. All that they have done is to went round across the country to ensure that the entire Gambian people and all sectors, departments, institutions, and so on were consulted in order for them to better define the way and the manner in which they want to be governed. And that is exactly what the CRC did. The draft constitution that is before us is not just the making of the CRC or the group that was constituted. This was a task given to them by this August Assembly because we believe that not every Tom, Dick, and Harry can be part of that group to have this document drafted. That is why a group of intellectuals, a group of knowledgeable people, a group of well-educated and experienced individuals were constituted so as to have this assignment done. And we were never in any way mistaken when we were constituting that group of individuals that we call the CRC. So obviously, everything that is written or drafted within the seed of this constitution is not from their own imagination, is not just from their own beliefs, is not just from their own write-up, but is from the will of the Gambian people, is from the mind of the Gambian people, is from the aspiration of the Gambian people, and of course, the belief of the Gambian people as to the manner and the way in which they want to be governed. So the CRC, they did what exactly they were asked to do. And here it is. So the question should be, do we really understand or do we really examine the way and the manner in which the CRC were asked to do this assignment, whether it was done in that magnitude or not? If probably things were not done accordingly, then various issues or questions can come up. But I understand from the view of the members that obviously the way in which they were asked to do their assignment, things were done exactly in that way, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, this very assembly, this August Assembly was consulted. I could remember the committee that is established, that is the Standing Committee on Human Rights and Constitutional Matters, and of course the entire National Assembly members were consulted and a position paper was given. Likewise, all other institutions also, they were given certain questions to answer, or the way in which they want to define their institution. And a position paper was given. They went as far as meeting the communities to ensure that they hear from them, to read their mind, to sound their opinion as to the manner they want to be governed. Honorable Speaker, and that was done. But one key thing that we must remember, not every element of the individuals that were consulted must be captured in the draft constitution. That is practically impossible. That everything that was said by the Gambian people must be captured in this draft constitution. Of course, during the consultation, so many issues came up. Of course, debate was going on when they were making their consultation. We are not ignorant of this fact. People have to debate, others have to agree, others have to disagree. But at the end of the day, what happened is majority carried the vote. And that is exactly how they came to the conclusion on every part or clause of this constitution. So obviously, it will not be a doubt if this draft constitution is tabled before the August Assembly, for honorable members to have controversial issues. That is normal. It is very, very normal, Honorable Speaker. But do we actually have to reject the draft constitution because of the controversial issues that we have? Like I said earlier, every one of you and those that are outside listening to you, those who elected us here in this August Assembly, they also have issues that are not just captured in this draft constitution. But like I said, majority carry the votes. So the assignment and the work now that we should do as honorable members, we are just a portion of the general public. And from here, we must understand that this might move to another level and to another level, up to the level of referendum, that we know. So meaning our task here is not just to discuss about this here, but the people outside who elected us must understand every element of this constitution before one will vote either yes or no. Honorable Speaker, that is very important. Honorable Speaker, as most of the members, of course, raise controversial issues or issues of concern, I must also raise some of the concerns that I have, Honorable Speaker. If you get to the draft constitution, Honorable Speaker, I have seen that obviously section 1953 of the draft, 1953 of the draft, which states that the National Assembly shall not reduce the budget of the judiciary below the amount approved in the preceding year. Obviously, Honorable Speaker, in as much as the National Assembly is concerned, we must not undermine certain things if we believe and if we are given the powers by this constitution that we are the ultimate institution to allocate resources of this country. Obviously, we have the right to touch every sector of the budget. What of, Honorable Speaker, if we are able to touch other institutions like you talk of other ministries, but not the judiciary? Honorable Speaker, that does not sound well to me. Every sector or every ministry, as long as budget scrutiny is concerned, we must be given the mandate. And here we are, that mandate must be here for us to touch every sector that we deem fit should be touched. Honorable Speaker, that is very important, but we cannot have that segregation within the ministries. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, another point that I have regarding the draft is the term limit, Honorable Speaker. I know most of the honorable members did emphasize about the issue of the term limit. Yes, Honorable Speaker, which is very important, but we must understand the rationale behind this. We are advocating for two-term limit. Of course, that is what we are advocating. And others who are, of course, saying whether the incumbent, the current president that we have, or the current term of this president that we have, should be inclusive or not. This is a question and it's a debate. But if you understand what we are really advocating, then you will begin to understand or accept the rationale behind this. We are advocating for two terms, whether this term is inclusive or not, but as long as an individual serves for 2 terms, whether this president or the coming president, that should be enough. That is what we are talking about. So it does not matter. And we must understand that this is not just from an individual. Everything that is written here is not just from the CRC members. The entire Gambian people recommended that this current term of the president should be inclusive. So you and I as an individual, we are saying no to it, or do we just have to vote against this draft constitution because of that provision? After so much effort, after so much investment, after so much time, the long-awaiting draft constitution just have to go out there on the dustbin. That is very unfortunate and a very bad history for that matter in the long run. then we are all trading on the side of history, on the part of history, and one day history shall judge us. That is obvious. Here we are talking about the 1997 Constitution. Today, most of the people will keep blaming, for instance, the former government for having brought this 1997 Constitution. Others will say that it's because of history we are talking about all these things. Today it is our time, we have the opportunity, we have the chance to start correcting some of the things that we believe that they are wrong. So obviously because of one element, because of two elements of controversial things that we have in the Constitution, that should not just make you to throw out this Constitution. Because your vote matters. Your vote counts a lot, as long as the draft is concerned. Honorable Speaker. So that is the concept, and that is the belief. Whosoever starting from now, this is the view of the Gambian people, is the belief, and this is what they want. So obviously, after going around the entire country and beyond the country, having accepted this and it is drafted, you have nothing to tell us, you have nothing to do but just to say no against this Constitution because of that provision. The advocacy is 2 terms. An individual serving 2 terms, then you have to lead the way. This is what we are talking about, Honorable Speaker. The other point, Honorable Speaker, is about the Honorable Speaker, is about the National Assembly. For instance, Honorable Speaker, under section 124. Today, most of the members, I heard them, of course, talking about whether do we really need to have the president appointing the ministers or the cabinet members automatically without subject to the approval or confirmation of the National Assembly or not. Honorable Speaker, I have a different view. In as much as we want to promote independent institutions among or within the 4 arms of government, that is the legislative, of course you have the judiciary, and of course the executive. My view and my take is that, Honorable Speaker, we have to leave everything on the hands of the executive, of course I mean the president, to do this appointment. We should not have any hand as an oversight institution to be part of the appointment of the ministers. That is my take, that is my belief, Honorable Speaker. The National Assembly is given the power if you are not satisfied with any minister appointed. If any minister happens to commit something that is to the detriment of the Gambian people, of course you have the right to cast a vote of no confidence on that very minister. That chance is there. So the issue of competency that can always be ascertained by this National Assembly as long as oversight function is concerned. This we must note, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, like I alluded earlier, Honorable Speaker, here we are, and we are not ignorant of the effort of the CRC. We are very much aware what they have done, and the entire process was actually accurate, because I didn't have, of course, any member challenging the process that was undertaken. Honorable Speaker, obviously, like I said, every institution, every department, every sector of this very great nation, they have issues that are not obviously captured by the CRC. And these are things that can be remedied in the long run. Honorable Speaker, as a result of that, one does not just have to reject the entire Constitution because you are not in agreement with what the CRC recommended or what the Gambian people recommended as per the term limit and the inclusion of this current term of the President, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, one does not just have to reject this present Constitution, this draft Constitution, because of a right that forms part of the draft Constitution that obviously the government does not have the capacity to fulfill. These are things that we can correct in the long run, Honorable Speaker. One does not just have to throw out this draft constitution, Honorable Speaker, because of what? You are not in agreement with the draft constitution simply because you are in support of the 1997 constitution. We all cried, we all struggled, we all battled throughout in the past years to ensure that we have this reform done. And now that it is here, you have no other idea, you have no other suggestion, but to tell the individuals who are out there, your electorate, I mean, because we are seeing what is going on, Honorable Speaker. Having accepted this, at the end of the day, you go out there, start campaigning people to vote against this, it means you are actually jeopardizing the will of the Gambian people. Because considering the fact that 70% or 75% of the people out there are not educated, they are not aware of this, and it is your duty. It is our responsibility to enlighten people, to educate people, to let them know what actually this document entails. You fail to do that, you have nothing to do but to poison the mind of the people, the electorate out there, to vote against this constitution. History will judge you for that. Always remember that, bear that in your mind. So it is our duty. I urge all honorable members who are here. It is not just one thing to play. Accepting this here or rejecting this here is one thing. But at the end of the day, if we should move to another level, especially the level of referendum, obviously we have another part to play. Considering the threshold, 50% turn out, 75% yes, which is very high. So just one sector of the population going against this constitution obviously might lead to catastrophe, disaster, Honorable Speaker. And that is not what we are praying for. And that is not what we were crying for. That is not what we were aiming for. That is not what we really want to achieve at the end of the day. Honorable Speaker, my position is very clear. And what I am urging other members to do, because of the one element controversial thing that we have in this constitution, should not make you to vote against this constitution. Thank you very much. Voting against the constitution means you are voting in favor of the 1997 constitution, which we were crying for. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, honorable members. I observe that there are some honorable members who've been sitting for more than 4.5 hours, and some have been going in and out. So I think it's only fair that we take a short break for lunch and stretch our legs and come back. It's 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. Do we say we come back at 3:30, 3:45, or 4 o'clock? What's the consensus? Suggest we stretch it 3:45. Yes, 3:45. I think so. So we now, the sittings are now suspended till 4:45. We come back at 4:45. Thank you.
Supersonic's money transfer is giving you an unbeatable bonanza from now until the end of October. Yes! From now till the end of October, you stand a chance of winning a bag of rice when you receive monies in the Gambia from UK, Europe, USA, Canada, and Switzerland with Supersonics money transfer. Amazing! So from now till the end of October, every time you receive monies in the Gambia from UK, Europe, USA, Canada, and Switzerland, you stand a chance of winning a bag of rice. Only 100 bags available, so hurry now and be part of the 100 lucky winners in this special unbeatable bonanza from now until the end of October with Supersonics money transfer. Enjoy our safe, fast, reliable, and convenient money transfer service with the largest payout network in the Gambia with charges starting from $0. Yes! Visit the Google Play Store or the Apple Store today to download the Supersonics money transfer app and enjoy excellent money transfer services only with Supersonics. The unbeatable bonanza with Supersonics. Supersonics money transfer is giving you an unbeatable bonanza from now until the end of October. Yes!